Buenos dias, Austin, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I am excited to introduce Austin Clark, CEO of Jera IT. Welcome, Austin.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, Javier. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
It's a real pleasure. Now, Austin, I can see on your website you put here empowering the team to become the best they can be.
Yes.
Okay, so I can
go for it. That's part of our ethos is to empower a team to take ownership, lean in being one of our core values, tribe being our second, and continuous learning being our third. So I've always been one who's to see our staff, my colleagues, to enrich and empower them where I can. And seeing people, one of the things in my career has always been to see people growing in the team. And I always consider them more tribe and team rather than family. It's a lesson I learned many years ago, and it served me very well. So yeah, we're always looking to see empowering our people.
I remember last time we spoke, you said that at the beginning, in the early days, when you train somebody up and they left the business, you felt a bit, kind of, I don't know, maybe disappointed but now you rejoice. You rejoice when you see them succeed in another company and you've been, a stepping stone in their journey. You rejoice from that development, right?
Yeah, that was a bit of a journey. So just to give you a little bit of background, I joined the company before it was called Jera IT. It was called Clark Computer Systems.
Yes.
Which my brother started and then became Clark Computers Limited.
Yes.
And whilst through that career, through that progression, for the majority of that time, we would always call ourselves a family. Now, I went and had a very dear friend of mine, Ted Garner, from a company called IT Weapons out in Toronto, from Toronto. And I always remember him saying how that he had to change the mentality around from family to teams, because as he explained, there's only two ways people were leaving family. It was either through death or divorce, and both are very traumatic periods. I felt that, because if somebody was to leave our family, I felt a betrayal, and I found it very difficult for many years. But then he explained to me about team. And I then got my head around that somebody comes into our team, and for a period of time, I get an opportunity to work with them and see them grow and develop as a person. And at some point, sometimes people in a team will move on to a new team.
Yes.
And then you feel pride. And you feel that you've been part of that individual's journey and that part of that person's growth.
Correct.
And I often look at people who have been within the company and see their journey and see their progression. And I feel a lot of passion and a lot of I feel as if I've been part of that, and I'm quite proud of it. So that was a mental change which I had to go through.
Correct.
And now that's what's in the business.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking on me, before I set up my own business, I worked for a number of companies, and when I think of my boss, I owe some of my growth to having worked with that person. So it's very much, it resonates a lot what you are saying.
Yeah, and I've over the years, it's very funny. Words matter. Words matter. And I've spoken to people throughout their careers. And actually, somebody came up to me a year ago and he said, "You won't remember me, but you really helped me in my career because you gave me some words of wisdom 5 years ago." I honestly, I looked at the person, I couldn't rightly remember where to place him. He'd changed his hairstyle, he'd grown 5 years older. But it had resonated with them. And I think that's an important thing, is that you're part of somebody's journey.
Yes.
And, try and do, I've always been to try and help where I can. It doesn't always work. And I don't get it always right. But if you could be part of that person's ongoing growth,
it's very rewarding. Very rewarding. Yes. So, Austin, tell us, when you were at school, was running a business something you always wanted to do, or how do you end up running a business?
Well, that's a really interesting question. No, the answer is I didn't start by thinking I was going to run a business. if you consider, I probably, as many of your listeners, I'm probably a few years on them, but 30 plus years ago, probably more than that. People didn't, and certainly in my circles, they didn't actually speak about running a business. So a little bit of background for you, Javi. I come from the farming background, and my career didn't start in running an IT company. I was actually a farmer, and we had a family farm. I went and studied agriculture. I then came back into the farm. Now, farming's a very traditional family-based organization. You follow the family footsteps, you follow the family career, and it's generational. So the idea of running a business wasn't something I actually really had ever considered. Now, my brother started in the oil and gas industry, and he came out of that after a number of years of being a very successful engineer and got inside computing. Now, at that point, I then joined him in the earlier years of his business. And it was at that point I started creating a career within the IT industry. And even for the first 10 years, I wasn't running a business. I was working alongside my brother and other people to be an IT engineer. So the idea of becoming a businessman or to running a business, that was not something that I left school with. I grew into that. And
Yes.
it was a progression which required some purpose about it and some thought to actually create what we have now.
So tell us about that transition from being an IT engineer to running a business. How did that
Um,
happen?
so again, I think it doesn't come naturally to run a business. And it's a question I often ask of people is being a leader, is it a natural or do you have to learn it? I didn't find it as a natural thing to do. I had to learn it. So I went out and I found my tribe, I found my community. And within that community, I found a group who was a peer group within the IT industry. And from that peer group in the IT industry, I went through a long, long period of time, 10 years of being counseled, being educated, being learning from others, making some terrible mistakes, but also working out what worked and what didn't work. And it took many, many years actually to get to the point. So it's not a natural thing in my book, or for certainly for me, to be a leader or to be running a business. It required a lot of thought, one of the things I would call you need a plan. You
Yeah.
need a plan before you can. I would argue one of the things you need to have if you're going, you can't just stumble into this. You have to start planning and looking and putting some purpose around running a business. It can happen, but you more often than not, you've got to put some purpose into it.
Yeah. No, very, very interesting. Um, so, what have been some of the biggest challenges you had to face in building a business, in running a business?
Ooh, good question. Biggest challenges. Some of the natural challenges are some of the natural challenges around people. People are always and always have been a challenge in I think most businesses is finding the right people, finding your people.
Yeah.
You need to get there has to be you have to work. There has to be a synergy between the team you've got. And I often speak about getting the right people on the bus. So it's building up that group of people who are like-minded enough. You can't have everybody thinking exactly the same way. You've got to be able to have some diversity within your team. You've got to have people who think outside the box or think differently to you. And it's
Correct.
being able to recognize that. So over the years, people have been one of the biggest challenges. The second biggest challenge, certainly in our industry, is change. We have my industry is the IT industry, and we have come through so much change. I mean, I can go back and I can plot it. It's like like a graph. I can say, well, we started at Windows 3.11. Through all the operating systems, we've gone through, transitioned through the internet of everything. We've gone through the .NET busts. We have gone through the next generation into everything going into the cloud. We've gone enterprise grade solutions. We've gone security. We have gone through to this next era, which we are just about to enter into, the AI age, the agentic AI, as they're dubbing a phase of it. So that continuous change, being able to continuously to evolve his challenges. Now, remember, I said I came from the farming background. And from the farming background, people would have been breeding livestock. And those livestock would have taken generational to grow and create these breed lines. In my industry, that we can all of a sudden we could change within 5 years, completely change our businesses and organizations, and have to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah,
that's been some of the biggest challenges.
Yes,
and the existential challenges which we've had. It's one thing to run your business, but then you have to contend with world effects. So because of the industry we're in, we have to contend with software development, with changes in business models. So all of that, and that's the existential side. And we came through the whole COVID era, and that had a decimating effect on many organizations and businesses, and we had to ride that storm. So a lot of challenges.
Now you mentioned, by the way, how many of you in the business at the moment?
Currently at just over 21 now.
Okay, so you talked about the challenge of getting the right people.
Yeah.
I know you use EOS.
We do.
The entrepreneurial operating system.
Yeah.
Based on the book Traction. Great book. So tell us about, and you mentioned the term getting the right people on the bus, which was popularized by Jim Collins in Good to Great, I think.
Yes.
And I talked to a lot of business people like yourself, and they find a challenge to find talent, number one, and then to keep talent, number two.
Yeah.
So is there anything you can share? Maybe having used EOS, has it helped you, the tools in EOS, to help find people and put them in the right people in the right seat, the GWC and all that stuff, the values?
Absolutely. And one of the things you learn through the EOS platform and using the core values and GWC, get it, want it, capacity, is that when we are recruiting, and have been doing this for a number of years now, is that we recruit based on that. We used to, and did for many years, recruited on gut. So we had a process where we would have somebody come in, we would have a series of questions, and this is before the whole chat GPT, where you could ask all the questions. You basically were working it out yourself. You were looking around for those interview questions, and you were trying, tell me what animal would you be? Give me a point in time where you've had an awkward conversation, and how did you handle it? We did all these things, and yes, I failed miserably many times with employing the wrong person, and only realizing after the first 3 months that you hadn't employed the right person. We've gone through agencies, and the recruitment agency, they've got their place in the marketplace, but you would have somebody hire them in the first 3 months. You had this cooling off period, and it was only to week 12 that you realize that you really hadn't done the best job hiring this person.
And you're out of date, yeah.
And then you're out of date. So what we've actually come out, what is actually working now, we find, is we look at our core values. We judge is the wrong word. We interview on that. And we're very clear on what our 3 core values are. And we look for evidence there to take somebody on board. We then to take a very good, take the job description, what we intend them to do, and we then go and look at the GWC, and we're looking for, do they get it? Do they understand what you're talking about and what the job role is? Do they actually want it? Not just what they're talking to you in front of you and have the and then do they have the capacity to do it? And you have to judge that.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned over the years is always remember, if you're interviewing for the types of roles, if it's an engineer, they're going to be very technical and you're looking for that technical interest. But when it's salespeople, always remember somebody who was selling. I've always learned that, remembered this, but somebody who's in sales is always selling, and they will sell themselves to you. So that's always been our hardest roles to interview for and to recruit into that space, because more often than not, they'll sell themselves to you. And I think, go back to that question, you shouldn't always be hiring the nice guy. You should be willing to actually take somebody on who, or to look at the role and see if you're hiring the right person who to fit that role. And that can be challenging.
Yeah. Now, you talked about, you said about the right people, right seats. Some people watching this may not be familiar with EOS. So just to clarify, the right people are the people who have your values.
Yes.
And they fit your culture like a glove.
Yes.
And putting them in the right seat is that they get what the role is about. They want it.
Yes.
And they've got the capacity to do it. So the competence, the capacity to do it. Okay.
Yes. Now, there is another part to that. You might have the right person in the wrong seat, but they might be the right person. This is always why the analogy with the bus is, you might have the right person on the bus. They just might be sitting in the wrong seat.
Correct.
So, for example, we had a very good technical engineer, but he was exceptionally good with clients. So we moved him from an engineer to a technical sales engineer, where he was exceptionally good in actually meeting clients, explaining the technology, but also engaging, creating very strong relationships. I'm more of a farmer rather than a hunter. And likewise, we've had people who've come into our organization who are exceptionally good technically, but actually not very good in front of clients. So they're probably somebody who should be working on systems and processes within the business, which doesn't expose them to the clients.
Yes.
So you could get the right person on the bus, but you may not have them in the right seat.
Correct.
You have the right seat, you just don't have the right person there.
Yes.
And you don't have the ability to move them. What you don't want is the wrong person on the bus. And you're going to be
even if they are in the right seat.
Even if they're in the right seat, you have the wrong person in the right seat, you have a problem.
And it's difficult to let go because that person is doing the job very well. So they more than justify their existence in the company.
Yes.
But the impact in the department is more negative than their contribution.
Correct. Yes. And you've got to be able to recognize that. It has happened in my career where I've always been hire slow, fire fast. Hire, be cautious about as you take people into your organization. But if it's not working out, there's a phrase we use is release them to the employment pool.
Yes.
And you also remember, it's probably the right if they're not a good fit in the business, you're actually doing them a disservice as well.
Correct. Yeah. So you need to let them go where they can shine somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely. So there's nothing worse than holding somebody in your business, but just because, they perform well, but if they're not the right person, not the right fit, they're causing cultural issues within your organization.
Yes.
That's where it comes in leadership and being able to recognize that and be honest and have that conversation. I'm not saying I'm good at that. I'm just saying that's what you should do.
Yeah. So it's putting people, when you get people, right person in the right seat, you are elevating them to their unique ability, which is what they love doing and they are great at. So the engineer you told me that was better customer facing, that person will be loving it, right? So they are great at what they do and they love doing it. So when you have everybody in that intersection of loving it and great at, you just,
It's fabulous, but I think the thing you're probably going to remember in there is that people change. People change as careers move on, as their lifestyles move on, as their aspirations move on. I always remember the story. We had a young chap on our service desk, and he was a first line engineer, superb young guy, and we wanted him to go on to become a second line engineer. But his hidden passion, his real passion, was to fly planes. And every weekend, he would go to the local aerodrome. It's actually he went to Dundee School of Flying School, and he now is a pilot with Loganair. And his real passion was to be a pilot. And when he left and he went to went and did that job, he contacted myself and my brother at the time. And he thanked us profusely because he thoroughly enjoyed his time with us, but his real passion was flying a plane. So I always said, how do I compete with somebody to be a second line engineer when their real passion is to fly jet airplanes? And
you don't.
There's a challenge there.
Yeah. Well, it's great. Well, that's a great story, Austen. Now, when we were talking earlier, we touched upon a topic which I think is of great interest to most people in business, people who own a business. Is their baby, they grow the business, and they find hard to let go. And that happens in the journey of growing a business because you cannot go to the next level if you don't let go. Why? Because we have 24 hours a day. That's our capacity. When we start letting go, then we can move from the 1 million to the 5 million, and then you let go, and then so it's delegating to elevate yourself to your unique ability we talked about before.
Yes.
Tell us about your journey, because on letting go, how scary it can be, but also exciting.
So I'm in an interesting position at the present moment because I have built up with my business partner. We have built up an organization where we are bringing up the next generation, that next tier, that level in the business. So over the past year or more, it goes back a number of years. I've been in this business for a long time. I have come through from a lowly engineer to then getting into my sales and then running the sales, driving the sales. I was in B&I for 10 years, many years, and I learned many, many lessons from that. I got involved. I was the sales director of the company, and I then led through to the company where I became the managing director of the company. So I've progressed through the organization. I'm now at a stage in my life or a stage in my career that there's another set of management coming below me. And at that point is recognizing, I call it HABU. I don't know if we've ever had this conversation. It's called the highest and best use of my time. And that actually applies to everyone. There should be HABU throughout the organization. Now, HABU is a tool which I use to identify things which I can do and are best at doing. And that then means I've got to let go of the other parts which I'm is good to deal with. And that's delegation. Now, delegation is a very scary thing. Delegation is, especially when it's your baby. It's you grew it. I grew it with my brother. My brother and I were in business for many years. I then took on the reins myself and grew it on for another 8 years, nearly 10. And then I merged the company with another company in 3 years ago. Now, since then, I have moved from where I was, there was 2 full-time directors, myself and my business partner. And about a year ago, I made a conscious decision that there should really be defined. There should only really be one point in the business because it just wasn't working as we had planned it out. I recognized that. And at that point, that's when I then went through a whole process of defining the roles and responsibilities, delegating the functions which I shouldn't have charge of. And that letting go of the vine is the right thing to do for the company because it allows the company to grow and it creates more opportunity within the business. So just over this past year, we've now seen we've taken another 4 people into our leadership team. We now have a leadership team of 6, and myself acting in CEO stroke chairman role, as I call it. And that management team, those new people coming in, we're seeing this new blood. These are people who've been in the organization for a number of years, but they're now getting an opportunity to take on more roles and responsibilities. When you get to the point of delegating those roles and responsibilities, the most important part of it is setting people up with the right tools and outlook, clarity as to what it is they have to achieve. What does good look like as we describe it? Mm-hmm. Now, once you have set that up, and you can't just let them go, you have to still give them some form of counsel to explain, keep them on message. But once they've taken hold of that actions, the things which you've delegated to them, it's then my job to mentor and counsel them so they get the best out of them as individuals in those roles. So, not an easy task. I certainly haven't found that the easiest thing to do, especially when I had the responsibility for all of that. Yeah. So that's a journey which I'm still on. But let go of the vine. There's a quite a comical story behind that. I won't share that on here, but it's when you let go of the vine, the person shouts, as he says, he's hanging on to this vine, and as he's hanging on the vine, he shouts up and says, "Somebody please help me." And somebody says, "Let go of the vine." He shouts back up, "Is there anybody else up there?"
Yes.
Because correct. when you let go of that vine, you have to trust that those around you will step up. And I'm very proud to say that has happened in my organization, and I'm seeing people now being the best of what they can be.
Yes. Now, people will say, okay, it's all very easy to say, let go of the vine, but how do you let go with a safety net? And I was thinking about EOS, and the safety net really, in my head, is the accountability chart. Is having the right people in the right seats. You talked about clarity with the 5 roles, the 5 bullet points of each function, crystal clear, and they GWC it.
Yes.
So when you have the right people in the right seat, then it's when you can delegate. And
that comes down to clarity. If you can set people up to fail, you can set people up to say, well, I'll give you this role, but no explanation of what it needs to be, what the clarity of it is. How do they know if they're doing a good job or not?
Correct.
You've got to give them either KPIs or outcomes, or you need to give them a description of what it is they're doing. You can't just say, hey, by the way, you're now operations director or you're running sales without telling them what sales needs to look like or what operations what is the acceptable, what is the expectation. And that comes from clarity. And you've absolutely nailed it. You have to give somebody a measure. And where we do that is around, I like many other organizations, around KPIs. So how can I measure if I'm doing a good job? How do I know if I'm hitting the bar?
Yeah.
Now, if the person doesn't have anything to measure themselves on, there's a phrase which I use, you're setting them up to fail.
Yeah.
So go be the whatever you are, but I haven't given you a description of what it is.
Yeah.
No. I haven't told you how you will know if you've succeeded.
Correct.
No. And I haven't given you a measure which you can benchmark yourself on and say, hey, I'm doing really well. If I don't know what it is, I have to guess. And when you then create that ambiguity, you have no way of actually understanding. You can't say if they are doing good or not.
No expectations. Yeah.
No expectations.
So the thing of KPIs is very interesting and has raised many interesting conversations. And some people, they hate KPIs, even in some companies where we invest in people. We are not numbers, okay? So putting KPIs, blah, blah, blah. Well, the KPI protects the person, because if you give me a KPI and I hit my number, I'm in a good place.
So how does somebody know? How do I know if I'm doing a good job?
Correct.
It's subjective. One
Yes.
moment you're coming to you and say, "Well, it's all about feelings. It's all about gut." I think I'm doing a good job. I know I do a good job, but I'm not sure if
And
it
many
is a good
hours.
job.
I am many hours at my desk or whatever, or I work long hours. Well, there is a great PDF, 15-minute read. It's called Execute Without Drama. And it talks about the importance of having KPIs, because if I'm having a conversation with you and you are not performing, it's not a confrontational conversation. The KPI is in between you and I. And we are talking about the KPI. I'm not talking about you or you're not talking about me. We're talking about the KPI and where you stand towards that KPI. So
Yeah.
it makes the conversation more objective and less emotional, if you like.
Yeah.
Because, interesting.
One thing, when you take KPIs, just as an example, you set somebody a number. More often than not, I've seen this happen many times. You sit with the team and you say, tell me if you're not, tell me about your KPIs, tell me your numbers. And they start with words and they start talking. Well, immediately know there's an issue with the numbers.
Yeah.
Because they're going to talk their way out of it. Well, I had this number, but I couldn't do it because you know what? That actually, when you deal with facts, and you say, "Well, here's your KPI. Did you hit it? Did you not?" No. Yes. It's clear.
Correct.
If it's a no, if it's a yes, let's move on. You're
And the conversation is a lot less long.
It's so emotions are taken out when you've got it. And
Yes.
I found most people, even analytical individuals who are, we call them the turtles.
Yes.
They actually really enjoy being able to say, well, yeah, I hit my number. I did what I was asked to do, and I smashed it out of the park. Wow, fantastic, wonderful.
Brilliant.
But if you got to sit, and that's where I think, and it clears it, it's clarity. Most of them, I would say, probably one thing I see from most people is, I want clarity, and clarity is give me something I can measure myself on.
There was a survey many years ago. I think it was Gallup 12. It was 12 questions that they interviewed, I don't know, tens of thousands of employees. And the first question was, do you have clarity of what's expected of you at work? And I think something like 75% of the respondents didn't know. They didn't have the clarity. They started new jobs and it was all, it's amazing. But it happens so often.
Here's the thing. I speak about this. If you were to tell somebody something, you want to get someone to understand it, quite frequently, you're going to tell people 7 times in 7 different ways. It's one thing to give somebody a job description. But if you don't reinforce that with, say, a set of numbers which they've got to deal with, or you measure it, or you get them to present that to you, or they have to present it to their team.
Yes.
People hear things in a different way. You and I tell you, I say to you, Javi, this is what it is. I think I've been clear, but you don't hear it as clear as that. So I've been very clear around this as we, for example, around KPIs, we measure that, and we measure it visibly. We measure it on a weekly basis. We will review that on a monthly basis. We will look at that as part of your review process. Now, do we get it right all the time? No. But the fact of the matter is, we don't assume that we told you it once, that's it, it's done. And that's where clarity comes in there. You've got to give people reassurance and give them the evidence and make sure that they have got it. We used to call it the 5 questions of clarity, where you would tell somebody something, get them to repeat it back, ask them if they have tools to do their job, get them to explain to you whether or not there's anything missing or things we do, and then get them to commit to deliver. And we used to call it the 5 questions of clarity.
Very good. You talked about, tell us about your meeting pulse. How often do you meet with your leadership team to run the business? what they call
So
the level 10 meeting. Do you run level 10 meetings as EOS puts it?
yes, we do. And we also we've got a system in place that's we've got a platform which is runs EOS for us. I won't mention the name per se, but it's a branded name. And
I know it very well.
so this organization, because this would be product placement here if I was going to do that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, what it allows us to do is run the business, run each of the meetings. Now, we run multiple meetings throughout our business. We have department-led business meetings. We have through our finance team, our sales team, our professional services, and our operations, our service desk. We have leadership team meetings, which are run weekly based on the L10s. And they report on our KPIs, headlines, to-dos, our reviewing our issues.
You
So we do
rocked.
that, and there is a very clear rhythm to these meetings. And I use the Rockefeller habits rhythming of meetings. So on the same day, at the same time, and last the same amount of time. So if I say it's a 90-minute meeting, it's a 90-minute meeting. We do go over, on occasions we go under, but we will rate the meetings at the end of the meetings, and we rate the meeting, not the content of the meeting. So was it at the same time? And I always go with the basis that on time's late, early is on time. So be prepared, come into the meetings, be prepared. Who is in the meetings? I use this very frequently as asking the question, who needs to be in these meetings? Because meeting bloat is a very common thing in a lot of these things. Everybody wants to be in the meeting, but actually, who's the right person to be in meetings? We have them on a regular day, and they happen no matter if you can or cannot attend. If I can't attend a level 10 meeting, I don't attend. It carries on without me. I can go back and look at the notes. It should be that these meetings are important and people want to attend these meetings. So I have a very strong rhythm on it. We also do 90 days. So we've got this rhythm where it's quarterly goal settings and quarterly meetings. We've got this theory, and EOS backs it up, is that humans, we can't remember things. You set somebody an annual goals. So this is the goals for the year. Do you remember the goals for the year? But if you break it down by quarter, I can deal with 12 weeks. I can deal with 90 days. And I can deal with that. So we break it down on a quarterly basis. We go off site every quarter and have a day with the whole management team completely separate from the business, so people can focus and concentrate. Brilliant. So we try and follow a lot of the EOS process, and our rhythm of meetings is. I'll give you an example. Here's one for you. My operations team have a daily huddle, and the daily huddle is at 9:37 each morning for 10 minutes. Why is it 9:37? It's just an odd enough time that you've got to remember it, or it comes up in your calendar and they've got to be ready. It's not a 10 a.m. meeting, it's not a 9:30 meeting, it's a 9:37 meeting. And it just that bit of quirk, and they all come on 10 minutes, everybody just gets a little bit of face time, get back into the day for the week.
You know why it is 9:37?
Go on,
because you play golf. And you the tee at 9:37, it's now for those who are not familiar, it's what Austen has been talking about a lot is contained in this book, Traction, which is a great book for small and medium-sized businesses, 10 to 250 employees, give or take, which with very simple tools to grow your business and break through any ceiling, really. So that was wonderful. Now, moving on a little bit, do you go to exhibitions? We were talking before about exhibitions and thought leadership, and there are many companies, and I've been there, where you go to an exhibition, you come out of it having spent 15,000, 20,000 pounds and nothing to show for it, or very little to show for it. So tell us what your experience has been, and yeah.
Probably one of the more experienced individuals attending exhibition. I'm almost addicted. Addicted is probably the wrong word. I get invigorated. I get very passionate around my industry and being around the community. I'm a very community focused individual. I spend a lot of time within my community, my tribe. I learn a lot. I take back nuggets. I take back opportunities. I keep myself current. So I attend, and I'm very selective around the events and exhibitions I go to. I plan it out. I plan out most of my events. A lot of people go to events because they'll say, "Oh, there's an event," oh, and I haven't been to one of these events before, and they book themselves in, and probably 2 days or 3 days before they go, they work out, where they're going and what the hotel is, and they look at a little bit of the agenda. No, I do a huge amount of planning before every single event. I'm working out what the content is, what are the goals, what do I want to achieve out of this. So, for example, I'll go to an event. I'll say, for example, this last event, we were all being introduced to the next generation AI of the agentic AI, and I basically focused all my attention on what I was going to get and the outcomes I looked at for this. So I'm very focused on what I was doing. I then spent time looking at who was attending these events. And I spent 3 weeks prior to the event reaching out to my contacts, my people, to set up meetings, to set up opportunities, to set up those times to have those conversations in the hallways, at the lunch times, during events. I will also engage in what I call the leadership elements of these. So I'm looking for opportunities to learn to become a better leader. So I think there's a lot to be learned about experience an event. And the second thing, here's another thing, people don't just go out for the 2 days or 3 days of the event, especially if it's an overseas event. Take the opportunity to see parts of the world, take an opportunity to engage in the communities you are. And I often set up opportunities to either meet with people before or after the event and create those relationships. You remember, we're very much a human. When we take AI, for example, one of the big things which we're going to learn through the AI era, which we're entering, which we're in the middle of, is that people still buy from people. Relationships are really, really important, and building up your relationships and building up your networks will never, ever be more important as we enter this era.
Yes. And I mean, you said the amount of prep that you put into going to an event is quite amazing. That takes time and effort, but then you see the results. So the preparation before the event, then execution on the event, and most importantly, follow up after the event, because you get leads, you get business cards, and then people phone once, phone twice, they don't pick up the phone and you stop following up. And a lot of business is lost because people don't follow through.
Absolutely. Because I attend quite a number of events, I build on the relationships. So mine's a compounding relationship builder. I met you at this event, we spoke about this, and we just keep compounding the conversation.
I like that. Compounding relationship builder. I like that.
The idea that you turn up once and you'll get everything out of it you want is a fallacy. It isn't a one-hit wonder. And this is why over the years I've built up a very strong community around this, where I can lean into it. If I need support from a vendor, I know the vendor. If I need support from somebody in an area which I'm not accustomed to, I may be able to contact somebody in Australia, in America, in Canada, across Europe. These can only be built up by relationships, by having conversations with people. And that could be breaking bread or standing at the bar having a drink.
Yeah.
You build those communities. Another thing which I often find is following up. And that is where you lean into your relationships. And if somebody has posted something on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or wherever, is give them a follow, give them a thumbs up, give
Yeah.
them a comment.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how those little touch points
Yes.
become so important
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
these relationships.
Also, just remember on events when you're on the stand. I remember once I was in a stand in it was one of the exhibitions we talked about in InfoSec in London.
Yes.
One of the sales guys was at the stand, and a prospect came to the stand and was talking to the salesman, and the salesman was talking. The sales guy was talking for, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes, really excited, doing a demo, showing all this, and then I go to the guy and says, how did it go? And he said, not good. He was looking for a job. So you need to ask a qualifying question when somebody comes to see you at the stand, brother, because otherwise you can waste a lot of time talking to people who are not your prospects.
Oh,
So it's training the team, you know, to run, to be at the stand, you know.
I come from the other side. So I would often go into stands and I go and speak to, especially when I ever go to any events, especially in Americas. I would always first question I would always ask is, do you trade in Europe? Because quite a lot of products are just US based. And if the person says no, I'm just product is just based in the US, and I would say, have any intentions to diversify into Europe? No, we've got no intentions. At that point, to me, it was that was an out. Okay, well, there's no sense in me having this
Correct.
conversation
You
with
move
you.
on. Yeah.
So you qualify it. And the same thing for if you're standing on a stand. So I always had three really core things to me was around, oh, these are just core values, which I should never ever have to explain to somebody in my business: honesty, integrity, and respect.
Mm.
And what I always do the honesty to yourself, honesty to your clients, and honesty to your colleagues. Respect for yourself. You always act professionally to your colleagues as well. Have respect for your colleagues and have respect for the clients, and that integrity. And what I mean by this is integrity is around professionalism. The reason I mention this is that there's no sense in standing on a stand with a supplier and trying to belittle them or trying to be cleverer than they are, because I know so much more. Actually, they're there to help you. They're there to try and do the best by you. They're not just there to sell to you. Most of the people in my community, certainly in the SaaS world, is they want to empower me and my industry to be better. And if we are better, they will be successful. So they're not just out there to sell. They want to, and if you can recognize, I often find that people who attend trade shows will often see it as a them and us scenario. And I've trained a lot of people around that. I've educated a lot of people around that they remember this is a two-way conversation, and they can only be successful when we're successful, and they want us to be successful. So to use that rather than, I often see people say, well, all they're wanting to do is sell me more stuff. Yes, they are. That's the ultimate goal they've got, but they're not doing that because it's the only thing. They're doing it because they know that's what will make them successful, is making you successful. So that's part of my education I do when I'm speaking to my colleagues for attending events.
Brilliant. So just wrapping up, two final questions. The first one is, do you, what piece of advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Two daughters, and my daughters are in their late 20s. And I often speak to them about their careers and what they're doing. And what always never ever fails me to say is, people at that age, especially when you're 18, that you've got all the world, all the time in front of you. Everything is in front of you. I can just put it off forever. I'm 18. What do I have? I don't have a care in the world. Live life. Gain experience. And I would certainly encourage a lot of people, go and work for a bigger company, go and work for an enterprise, go and learn, go get a mentor, go and work with somebody who's going to give you that. It's different. Look out for them. Keep your ears and your eyes open. Look out for them. That there will be people there who want you to be more than what you are, and lean in. There's so many. I see it so many times with youngsters who think that, I've got all the I've got all the time in the world.
Mm.
Well, that always to me is often leaning back. So what I would have told my younger self at 18 is engage, live life, take experiences when you can, and engage with life.
Engage and be engaged.
Exactly, Javier.
Brilliant.
Engage
Yeah.
and be engaged.
I love it. Brilliant. Books. Do you have you read a book you would like to share with with the people watching this
I
recording?
do, and I'll just funny you should say that. Give me a second. This is one I'm reading at the present moment.
Good. I've got it there. Turning the ship around.
Turn the ship around, and I'm really enjoying that one just now. About the leaders rather than leader followers, and it's too easy to dictate. It's too easy to think you know everything. This idea is empowering others and leaders.
Yes.
Another great book which I have read is, I've mentioned it before, which is The Go Giver. I encourage many people to read The Go Giver. And there are a number of other books that I would suggest. Simon Sinek's Find My Why. I'm a great fan of Simon Sinek. I think he's a very talented and insightful individual. So those would be like three that I would have in my library.
Brilliant.
I probably have a number of other books which I would suggest. And Daniel Priestley's
Yes.
Oversubscribed.
Yes.
Thoroughly enjoy that. And his other book, which is his title's going in my head, is The Influencer. I can't remember. Remind me of them. One is the key person of influence. I believe it is. So I like Daniel's work as well. I enjoy that.
Yes. Well, that's brilliant. We had a few golden nuggets there at the last minute. And well, Austin, what can I say? Thank you very much for being part of our show and for being so open and honest, and for being so candid about your journey. Thank you so
very
much.
Javier.
Thank you. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye.